new to me term, which is crazy because I've been around a little while. What is a subject to offer? I mean, what kind of things are we talking about being subject to in that offer? What do those look like?
So subject to, believe it or not, earlier in my career was something that was more normalized than it is now. It is amazing to me that now you can see certain shifts in the market, because certain shifts, then you start to see alternative types of financing, alternative types of selling.
It's not just these clean, easy to predict transactions.
Absolutely.
There's little nuances.
Absolutely. And what I'm experiencing right now is I'm experiencing pretty much on every listing I take. On every one, there's generally 1 to like maybe 3 or 4 quote unquote subject to offers. I will get these things, they'll be emailed over to me, no conversation from the agent. And in my opinion, what I see and experience is that they'll write a whole bunch of these without doing homework, and they look to see what it will, who will bite on it, right? But here's the truth: there is a place for subject twos, and there's definitely a place not for them. Place, say that it may work a little bit better than others, is let's say you have a property and your home, unfortunately, maybe is not worth what is owed against it. And for whatever reason, you've got to get out. So you owe $500,000 on the house, but the house is worth $400,000.
Oof. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So let's suppose you have a situation like that. And or let's suppose that you may be in a situation where you're upside down and you're already in foreclosure, or you're already in certain situations like that. Well, a subject to offer can be beneficial for you. You could possibly take the risk, because when you take the subject to offer, you are rolling the dice. The seller that, in my opinion, 99% of the time, who should not accept the subject to offer is someone that's got equity in it, good equity and all of that. Okay, maybe you're not able to get the price that you want to get for your home right now because the market is changing. Just lower the price. Once you leave the house, you want to leave the house.
Right.
See, a subject to offer, pretty much all you're doing is you're giving up all of your rights of ownership, but you're keeping all the liability if for some reason that goes bad, if for some reason somebody doesn't make a payment, if for some reason the house goes into foreclosure. No matter what it is, that person that bought the property from you, that you thought bought the property from you, subject to, their credit's not going to be hit, they're not going to get the phone calls, they're not going to get the letters. You're going to receive those things. So you really need to make sure that you have a professional that understands the ins and outs of a subject to offer. And I will tell you this, the next most important person in that process is your escrow officer. You need to be with an escrow officer that knows and understands, that can make sure those I's are dotted, those T's are crossed. So if you do decide to do it, and there's ways to structure it, that you do it properly. But man, if you got equity in your home, and the worst case scenario is to sell the property, is you need to sell it for a little bit less, sell it for a little bit less. Don't go subject to, that's where you'll hear the term greed, and you're going to be opening yourself up for the possibility of a lot of disappointment, and you'll have absolutely no control.
So let's say I'm upside down on the house. I owe 500, it's only worth 400. What would a subject to offer that could be beneficial to me maybe look like?
So in that scenario, you obviously don't own or would not be able to sell it because you'd have absolutely no money.
I'd have to do like a short sale.
Yeah, right. You have to, so now in a subject to offer, maybe I am coming off for you and I'll say, hey, listen, John, I know that your property is overvalued. I will give you up front $25,000. So for $25,000, I'm going to take this property subject to me being able to get financing or paying this thing off by a certain date. Generally, you see 3 to 5 years on that note.
So would you be gambling that the market's going to go up in the next 3 to 5 years?
Possibly, yes. Or I would be possibly a wholesaler that is taking the property that think I can resell it a lot sooner and recoup my money. Okay. You'll also have the subject to offers, or maybe you have equity. And this is the ones that to me are more scary for a seller. Is let's say the property's worth 500 and you owe 300. So you actually have equity in this thing, but you want the property. You think the property's worth 600. House is worth $500. You only owe $300. But now I come to you and I say, okay, listen, John. This is what we'll do: is I'll take this property subject to, meaning I'm going to take over your existing financing. I'm not going to qualify for it. I'm going to take it over.
I'm still legally bound to the bank.
You're still legally
note.
bound to the
Okay.
to the bank for that note. Now you want $600,000. Here's what we'll do. I'll give you $100,000 now.
Okay.
I'm taking the rest of it subject to the financing, and you're based on the fact that I'm either A, to get a little bit more complicated or a little bit more sweet in the pie. I'll say, John, I'm the rest of this amount. I am going to ask you to take a second, a wrap around your first, and then I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars a month over an extended period of time, and I will have a note against the property as well. So that sounds complicated enough.
If the value goes over 600 in the future, I get the spread. The buyer gets the spread.
Yes, or they have to refi out of it, take a balloon note, whatever they have to do to get out of the property, to get the property, the loan out of the buyer's name.
Okay.
And there are a lot of different ways to do that. But again, that whole particular time, you are now betting that nothing.
That's where you were talking about the greed factor.
Yeah, and
Instead of
then nothing
selling for
goes wrong.
500, you're going to try to do this convoluted, complicated deal, hoping that you'll be able to make a little bit more.
And one thing that's very important is that I won't say every, because every is a term you should never use. So 99.9% of the time,
Okay.
the lenders have what's called a due on sale clause. And what that due on sale clause means is that if that property is transferred without the permission of that particular lender,
You have to
not
pay
fully
off that loan
assumed,
immediately.
they can require you to pay off that loan immediately. And if you can't pay it off immediately, they can immediately put it in foreclosure. And guess who's the one in trouble?
Right.
Right?
Because the bank's not going to give up the lien on that property.
That is correct. And if the property has not been properly assumed, see, they have no rights to the new quote-unquote owner of the property.
Right.
They only have the rights to the part that's being financed.
Right.
So now their investment is diluted. And now from an investment standpoint, now a lot of people will say, and this does happen, is that, hey, as long as the person that did the subject to is making the payments,
Right.
whatever, the bank not going to
No
care.
harm, no foul.
Right. And that is true. That is possible. But legally, the bank can do that. So now what happens if all of a sudden, no, for whatever reason, the people had great intentions. They had great intentions. It's been working out good for 2 years already. And all of a sudden, maybe they lose their job. Maybe they get sick. Something happens. And all of a sudden, they miss a payment or two. So guess what the bank is going to know? Hey, whose name is this on title? This is someone who we have this loan with, and now they've missed a couple of payments. Hey, what's going on? Blah, blah, little research. Nowadays, 35 seconds later, you can probably ask ChatGPT.
Right.
35 seconds later, hey, they don't own the house anymore. Due on sale clause.
Crazy. All right, so the moral of the story is if you have equity, first consider dropping the price before doing some kind of creative.
Do anything before you necessarily look. At the end of the day, when I sell something, I want it to be sold. I don't have anything else to do with it again.
Right, of course. I mean, we all do. The seller does too, and the buyer wants to buy and be done most times.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
So there's a place for subject tos, but the subject tos that I'm currently seeing right now are do not
Predatory.
fit.
They're just like,
yes,
we're going to
and
throw
they
a
do
bunch,
not
see what sticks.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're not fitting the narrative and the things that are going on in the marketplace for the sellers that I have.
Okay.
What that means to me is they've done no research.
Okay.
They just make the and I can tell you the other thing is that they haven't looked at the property. They haven't looked at the property. Obviously, they just are, you're at 700, I'm offering you 600, and and I'm going to take over your loan, and we're going to wrap and rip and rip, and they got all this stuff that they're going to do, and you're sitting there like, what?
Right.
So if you got to go what at the end of with your offer, probably not the one for you.